they had developed some sort of an artificial embryo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of an artificially created embryo. I think it even had a heartbeat.
Yes, that's right. And before that, an artificial genome.
Yes.
I mean, it's coming, Joe. It's
is.
coming.
Scientists grow synthetic embryo with brain and beating heart without eggs or sperm.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and now extrapolate. Go from here to 100,000 years of technology, as long as we don't blow ourselves up or have a super volcano kill us all. Scientists from University of Cambridge have created model embryos from mouse stem cells that form a brain, a beating heart, and the foundations of all other organs of the body. Mm-hmm. Pretty wild shit.
Well, it's just a molecular machine, life. And once you know the blueprint, you just print it out.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. It's a hard problem, but it's coming. Something like that is coming. And how would it be any different from what how religions describe God as an omniscient, omnipotent being? Right,
especially if you go a million years from now. A million years of evolution, we conceivably would have the power of gods.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
Assuming we live our lives long enough.
So if you think of a life form that exists out there, millions of light years away, that has achieved this sort of advanced technology, do you think that they would want to be visiting us and be interested in us with our nuclear power and all of our chaos and our territorial behavior and the fact that we have these thermonuclear weapons, we're pointing them at each other, and I think they'd be pretty interested.
The question is what should we believe? Justified true belief. What should I believe is true? Some things are true, some things are not. I want to believe the correct things. How do I know? Right. Mm. So this is what science has kind of developed, science and rationality of over the centuries. Okay, so we know we're biased. We know we have to be careful about the confirmation bias and the hindsight bias and so on. So we have to set up some kind of system where it's not just me claiming it. You can look at it too. You can run the experiment. Here's how I did it. You do it. Right, and when that's not done, we have all kinds of problems, like the replication crisis in psychology and medical science over the last decade or so. Some significant two-digit percentage of these experiments can't be replicated, even though they went through peer-reviewed professional journals and they were done by professional scientists at real universities and so on. And so this is it's hard to know what to believe.
What is I don't want to butcher this because obviously I'm not a scientist, but there's a series of Alzheimer's drugs that were based on research that was falsified. Mm-hmm. And they're finding this out now. Mm-hmm. And this is a terrible thing for people that have, invested their health in these medications, people that have promoted these medications, that this was all based on falsified data.
Or how about the...
Find that, because that's pretty fascinating. Because here it is. This is a legitimate conspiracy. Neuroscience image sleuth finds signs of fabrication in scores of Alzheimer's articles threatening a reigning theory of the disease. Mm-hmm. That's terrifying to find out that the people that are responsible for doing these experiments falsified. An attorney investigating an experimental drug for Alzheimer's disease called Simoflam. The drug's developer, Cassava Sciences, claimed it improved cognition partly by repairing a protein that can block sticky brain deposits of the protein amyloid beta, a hallmark of Alzheimer's. The attorney's clients, two prominent neuroscientists who are also short sellers who profit if the company's stock falls, believe some research related to Simoflam may have been fraudulent, according to a petition later filed on the behalf of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. So this is a huge scandal in medical science.
Right. And this one appears to be more fraud than just error.
Well, also that this idea that it's a chemical imbalance of the brain is not based on science.
Yeah, well, it's based on something, but it's probably incorrect science or
fraudulent.
I don't know if it's fraudulent. That's a pretty hefty charge to heave on a scientist. That's the end of their career. It's the end of their lives. If they get convicted of actual fraud, they'll never work again. That's different than making errors. And
this Alzheimer's thing is certainly based on fraud.
It looks like it.
And it looks like it was successful for decades.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah. Well, and, there's dozens of examples like this from, say, the last 50 years.
Sure.
But it's still rare, and usually scientists that figure it out and then call them out.
So ultimately.
I like to think of it that it works reasonably well. right? I mean, we find out about the errors, the mistakes. I mean, creationists always used to point out the errors that evolutionary biologists made, therefore God did it, right? The theory is not sound. So now there's a movement afoot to kind of have scientists say ahead of time, post on these websites, this is the experiment I'm going to do. Here's exactly what I'm going to do. I will report all of the data. So then you avoid the file drawer problem, where you only publish the successful ones, the rest go in the file drawer that were not successful. So this, I mean, a lot of major journals will not publish replication experiments. They're not interested in that. They want cutting edge new research. Well, this is a problem because, like, again, if you have this theory and no one can replicate it, but no one wants to publish the non-replication because it's not interesting, then you can go down this rabbit hole of an error perpetrating for decades. There's studies on why scientists commit fraud, and it's again, like conspiracies. It's not a big grand thing. It's just like wants to get tenure.
Right.
Just, keep his job. I remember one of the most interesting podcasts you had with Edward Snowden, and you guys were talking about conspiracies, and he starts talking about, let me tell you how it really works. Behind closed doors, it's just bureaucrats trying to keep their job, right? So they're ramping up the threat of terrorism because if we don't have a threat, then we're going to lose our funding, right? So very narrow. I just want to keep our funding for our department. And a lot of science works that way.